xBuilders podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the xBuilders podcast. Today I have with me Stefan. He's a true builder, so I'm sure we'll have an awesome episode today. I think a lot of people got to know you in the past 6 months since X Day, but I'm very interested to see who are you before joining Multiverse X. I know some parts of you, and I know they are very interesting. So
yeah,
let's start with that.
So that could be a podcast in itself. Not because I've done many amazing things, but because I've lived for a long time. Let's just leave it there. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. This is a great thing that you're doing for the community, and I think that everybody agrees that we definitely need more and more people to do these kind of things. So thank you for that. And to your question, so I guess the easiest or the shortest version of who I am is I've been a builder for the last 20 years, probably even before that, but it was a more informal state. But yeah, I started my first company, a design agency, about 22 years ago, I think. I kind of remained in that area. So, being an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, building companies, some of them more successful than others, many lessons, most lessons from the ones that weren't as successful as it goes.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the short version of it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Going back to what you said, and I totally agree, we learn more from failure than success, of course. What was the most important lesson that you learned from all your previous experiences?
I think the most important lesson was that it's actually a quote, or it's best summarized in a quote with I don't remember exactly who said it, but it was if you wanna go fast, if you go alone, and if you wanna go far, you go together.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I noticed that getting to the scale or to the teams that really matter, it was crucial to get the right people involved and to get the right mindset for everybody involved in a company.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the biggest lesson that I learned, is that it's always about the people that you work with. It's always about making sure everybody's on the same page. And on the other side, more on the personal side, would be the importance of discomfort. Pushing yourself and pushing yourself outside what you would call your safe zone is the only way to grow, right? And that this can be something that it's done at the smallest things, like how much time you allocate for getting something done, and learning to release things quickly, even if you're not comfortable with whatever that is. Especially when it comes to code. I guess so that discomfort, the importance of discomfort and one's evolution, I think it's critical to it's sometimes it feels like, especially young entrepreneurs or people that are just getting started, they see comfort or getting to a comfortable place, the absolute target of whatever they're doing, and that's usually where the pain starts, and this is where plateauing actually starts. But yeah,
totally. I mean, everyone is dreaming about that. I don't know, sitting in an island with the perfect car and everything, but that usually never happens. I mean,
even if it does, it doesn't satisfy you for long.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not happening actually, but it's happening. But you can never stop.
Sure.
So it's kind of always like pushing harder and harder and harder. So
of course.
Yeah, and I totally agree that a big portion of the success or failure is strongly tied to the team and the people you surround with. And I also agree that getting out of the comfort zone is the only way to to achieve greater things. Even right with me with the podcast,
Of
I'm a
course.
developer,
Of course.
so it's hard for me to do it. And I know there are way better people and way better podcasts out there.
No,
but-
no, come on, this is
Nah,
the best.
that's
Of course,
the
it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think it's important, and I think bringing people like you and other builders from the ecosystem, it's important for two main reasons. One, of course, learning from them, and maybe someone gets an idea of an app to build from what you say, for example,
Sure.
or things like that. But it's also very motivational for others to continue pushing because they see others are pushing and things like that. So yeah, I think it's helpful for the ecosystem. It's painful for me to
Of course.
to get out and do it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It's part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So you were introduced around like 6 months ago on X Day. How did you end up joining Multiverse X? You've done a lot of amazing things so far. How this puzzle piece fits together?
Sure. So my journey with Multiverse X, back then Elrond, started with Lucian Todia. Actually, I know him from 15 years ago. We've been good friends ever since. I think we met in 2007, 2008, something like that. So we've been close ever since. And we collaborated on some projects later on. After I moved from Timișoara to Cluj-Napoca, we kept in touch. And one day he called me up and asked me what I was doing. I figured, it's like if I want to meet Benny and talk, maybe we can do something together. And that's when the conversation started. It wasn't a right away thing. It was a longer conversation. I wasn't sure how much value I can bring to the team. Not right away. I wasn't quite certain if my skill set, or I wasn't as. I'm not a technical guy. I'm not a programmer. So me not knowing enough, I felt like me not knowing enough about blockchain and the technology part of Elrond Multiverse X was a problem. But we kept talking, and if you ever talk to Benny, which I know you did, you know how contagious his energy is.
Yeah, how passionate.
And it didn't take long for me to buy in the vision or to understand what he's trying to build, what the team is trying to build, and I think that's where it actually started. And once I figured out, I guess that was the first challenge, understanding what the bigger vision is, and then the second challenge was understanding my role or how I can actually contribute to this.
Yeah.
And once that was clear, things moved very quickly after that. I mean, I joined that summer before X Day, and within and then ever since then it's been a crazy roller coaster of new information, new things. Yeah, so it's
yeah, totally. So there's been around like 6 months since the transition from Elrond to Multiverse X.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in the process and learning about Elrond for quite some time now, like even before joining. So, and also you are the first person on the podcast from the team. So, how do you feel about this? How does it feel from the inside, the transition from Elrond to Multiverse X?
Okay, that's a great question. I think that's a great question because you're never going to get the same answer twice. Even if you ask me 3 months from now, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And, this is such a personal journey for every team member. Elrond was built because people believed, like there was a core team that believed that they can do this. Although, despite everybody and everything around them telling them, yeah, that's not really going to happen. And they said, no, we got this. And that kind of belief and that kind of dedication builds a team that is so much more than just a team, right? And this is what I feel like I've joined with Elrond, even before it was refounded as Multiverse X. And that kind of sense of belonging, that kind of sense of purpose is very rare to find. So that's the thing, from my perspective. And again, my experience is a limited one compared to the core team members and everybody else that was there from day one.
We've talked a little, but I'm curious, and I'm sure like everyone really is curious. What does head of core applications really mean?
Okay.
So like, how does a day? You'd probably say that okay, each day is different, but how does a day in general look for you? Like, what are your kind of duties, responsibilities, and everything? Yeah.
So yes, each day is very different. Head of core apps really is more about. So internally, really has no big meaning because internally it's very much based on problem solving. If you can help with something, you'll help with something. That's pretty much it. It's I really struggle with this question, not because it's not it's not a good question. Usually the good questions are the ones that you struggle with. Is because I do many things, but because many of the things that I'm doing are smaller pieces that I'm trying to figure out how can be helpful to others and to the team at large. It wouldn't be just one thing, right? We're going to a direction now with everything that we're building, where there are some ways where certain smaller apps become, or smaller efforts or smaller initiatives within the team become very useful for the entire team. So I guess this is how I see my role. First and foremost, trying to help as much as I can, whoever I can in the organization. And secondly, trying to keep track or trying to keep focus on the important things as well. Not because everything is important, but many things are urgent as well, right? Yeah. So there's a segment of things that sometimes get a bit, not highest priority, and I'm trying to keep track to make sure that those things are also in line, or get their moment to shine. Yeah. And also I think this is kind of like the Benny's merit here, and Lucian's as well. They've built a team, or they've built a company that is so aligned as far as objective and as far as wanting the same thing for Multiverse X to succeed, that that's basically what everybody's doing. It's not just me. It's basically absolutely everybody within the company is always trying to find ways to help everybody else succeed. And I think that's one of the things that within the last 6 months, and I got the more I got into the culture, the more I got to know more people and talk to more people and be more involved in more projects. That's the one thing that's constant. No day is similar to the other day. No, each project has its own challenges. But this is the one thing that felt like the true line for the last, I think 9 months now, 10 months since I'm part of the team. Yeah.
You've been here for a couple of months now, and you had enough time to align with the vision with everything. So where do you see the kind of the blockchain technology in general growing in the next months and years, and what role do you see like Multiverse X playing right now? You have a clear vision of where Multiverse X is going than us from the outside. So Yeah.
This is one of those things where I think maybe people from the outside might see this better, not because they have more data, but because they have less data and less information. And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, middle of the storm, middle of building it, sometimes it's hard to see the clear picture at all times. Now, obviously, there's a clear direction for blockchain in general, and we see this as adoption, as institutional adoption is picking up, as some of the missing pieces for this transition from Web 2 to Web 3 to happen, whether it's regulation, whether it's safety, compliance, all these things that are slowly and surely, each piece is being connected to the next. All of it clearly shows a future where blockchain is integral to the world and to everything that's coming. And I think that Multiverse X, not only as a company but as a concept, because it's much more than just the technology or the products, is integral, or it's part of this in a way that might not be obvious right away, but it's going to become obvious within probably the next couple of years. The name is not chosen by mistake, as you were at X Day and you saw Benny presenting it and how he introduced this, and which makes a lot of sense. And it's one of those things that keeps making more sense as time goes by, and as you mentioned, pieces are connected.
Yeah. You've mentioned before adoption and institutional adoption, and I know you're here in Bucharest right now. You've been to XFabric Forum, and you've worked together with them to develop the NFT Marketplace. So can you quickly tell us, first of all, an intro of the marketplace and the project, and what's its purpose, and maybe a little of how you ended up building a little like inside the story. I mean, not much, but
of course. So this is one of those projects where the technical part was the easiest part, because ECD services, which is this division of blockchain and what they're trying to do, it's called. This was a initiative that there were a few people within the organization that really wanted this to be created, and the sheer amount of pressure that they needed to exert internally and then within the government for this to happen it took 2 years, I think 2 or 3 years, something crazy like that, which we're not used to, because in 3 years for us it's I don't even know. I mean, technology in 3 years is just you have no idea what's happening. But for somebody to be as persistent and making sure that this they follow through and they follow up and they do this. I don't know if you know, ECD services as a marketplace, they needed a government or a prime minister order. I don't know what. For it to exist. So it essentially is a law for this to. They needed a law for this to function. So it's amazing to see that first of all that this happened, and the precedent that this sets as far as adoption at this level, at this government level, for a country like the European country like Romania, it's amazing, and I think this is humbling in so many ways. And I'm very, very happy that we could be part of this and help with the technical side of these things. But again, this was 90% their merit. They're doing. They're the ones. Ichi, the team from there, they're the ones that reached out to 4 different governmental institutions. We have the Olympic Forum, the Olympic Committee from Romania being part of the initial launch, and and it's amazing. I think they've done a great job with this. And Yeah, so our side was we tried to be as good as a technical partner we could be. Shout out to Valid Blocks as well, because they've done a great job with their XSafe product, with the multisig wallets. That was also very helpful for this project to exist, right? So yeah, our role was surprisingly straightforward, because by the time we started the discussions about this, they already had to finalize many of the processes, right? So this was and on our side, it's the team has delivered as always. I had no doubt about that. Yeah, it was just making sure that the pieces are aligned properly.
I wanted to mention this because, as you said, it's maybe for a lot of people doesn't seem like a big deal.
It's a huge
deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a huge deal for an actual country to put in all this effort, because I wasn't aware of the exact timeline and everything, but I expected that for them to launch this and of course be fully compliant from all sides. They needed to push a lot, like on a lot of people, institutions and everything, to be able to pull this off. So
exactly, and they already have, I think, 4 other institutions already in the pipeline. So they take this very, very seriously, and they're doing everything that they need to do for this to be a success, not just, at the event of the launch itself, which, by the way, I think they sold out 90% of the NFTs already. Sorry, I ruined it. No. But they already have all of this set up, and they understand the mechanisms. They understand that how important community building is, making sure that there are communication efforts ongoing, and they reach out to communities and to our larger community as well. So that's great.
Yeah, and that's a huge opportunity for Romania. Like having MultiversX X here,
it helps. It helps.
Yeah. So you are a product person.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, more of a product person than a technical person. Yeah.
So but where I want to get is that you understand the importance of user experience and how important it is for adoption and like kind of to build user-centric products.
Yeah.
Because in the end, the user is in the center of your product. So what steps or how do you approach kind of because you handle like XFabric and Spotlight, how do you approach them, like making sure you create a great user experience? And I'm asking this because in general in blockchain and in Web3, onboarding and user experience is hard. It's always, it has been a challenge from the beginning, and it's still a big challenge. So how do you, let's maybe talk about XFabric and kind of give an example there. Like, how do you bridge the gap between the technology, the great technology, and kind of the people or institutions?
Sure. So first of all, XFabric is still a product that it's not launched. It's not online yet. And we're still working hard on this. And this is actually a great question because it kind of talks or specifically to where XFabric is in the spectrum of products, or where we see this being a relevant product as we go forward. And you mentioned Spotlight as well, XSpotlight as well. This is also an important product, and it's maybe if I compare the two a bit, what would make more sense. XSpotlight is very much about the community that we have. XSpotlight's mission is to spearhead adoption and engagement. And there's a larger strategy here that we're trying to slowly implement, and hopefully we'll get there, as soon as possible. But what we're trying to do with XSpotlight is, right now we're because of the market conditions and everything that surround us, because everybody sees these, we're trying to showcase best examples or best practices or how to best approach building great projects, that essentially means building great communities around your project. Yeah. And we've introduced the series, the Beacons of Light series, and your project was also, it was the first one we featured, right? Yep. Yeah. So what you guys are building and keep building and interacting and reaching out to the community and listening to them is exactly what success needs to be, regardless of monetization, regardless of how much you're selling out. It's going to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That shouldn't be the bar for performance. So with Beacons of Light, with the Spotlight, this is what we're trying to do. But this is very much a community first project and a very much Web3 community first project. And this is an important distinction between Spotlight and XFabric. XFabric is targeting, it's going to be talking to a very different kind of people.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so we're the mission, the initial mission that we introduced at X Day is still the same. We're still building a no-code builder. We're still building a no-code interface that is still targeted to brands and companies and to larger institutions and organizations. That's still the mission. The product has evolved. Has evolved a lot in the last 6 months, 7 months, I think. And it's going to be so much greater once everybody sees it and understand what we were building on. But XFabric, because the people this addresses it, this is useful for, will have a very different strategy for growth. So yeah, even this little thing, which is actually a huge thing, it just shows how MultiversX is evolving into being just a single thread or single voice organization into something that inclusive for many types of products that talk to many types of users.
Each product will have its own voice.
Exactly. And XFabric is being more into the B2B kind of side. We're trying to pick up where the open source part and all the resources that are being, keep banging, and as you know, and you with, especially you guys, what you're building with everything, actually, with all the projects that you do, everything is open source, everything that you guys are doing. This is a core element that will never disappear, and it should be always the first layer that MultiversX and the community does. But then there's a second part to a segment of users, like companies, that maybe they don't have the resources internally to understand all of this, or they don't have the budgets, but they do want to participate in Web3, and they do see the value in creating projects within, using these technologies. So that's where XFabric will come in, right? So this is how how we see it internally. But yeah, there's still a lot to go there, and still a lot to be done. It's going to be interesting. Seeing the road ahead is also it's a huge bet, by the way, because this is a product that it's a completely new product that we're building. But I'm confident. I'm confident because the team is doing an amazing job, and seeing the project, seeing the product, seeing the first interactions that people had with it, how great, or their how positive the response is. It's going to be great.
So I think I told you since like X Day that XFabric is probably my favorite project, and I mean all of them are great. For example, Xportal, of course, it's another huge one. The thing with Xportal is that we had my art before, which was already amazing, but XFabric, it's like totally new. So kind of it had a bigger impact on me.
Sure.
But the reason I'm so excited about it is because a thing that I loved around MultiversX from the beginning was that it was the attention for kind of user-centric products. So I think with MultiversX, you took that to the power of X.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very excited about XFabric, because you mentioned it's kind of a B2B to C kind of.
Yeah, it's builder to builder to consumer.
To consumer.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it will probably open the doors to a very big community of people that will join through different institutions or different companies.
Sure.
So I'm amazing to see the opportunities.
So I would just totally agree with you, by the way. But one thing that I would like to mention, or as an add-on, the one thing that xPortal and XFabric have in common is the fact that they're making technology invisible, and that's the whole point. XFabric is going to do that for brands, but not only for companies and brands, but also for their users, their communities. From their perspective, they might not even care. I mean, most of the users, they don't care if it's Web 2 or Web 3 until you explain the differences. But right now, what's happening in many of the Web3 projects is that you have to go through a huge list of things that for most users is like, wait, what's happening? Like, what do you mean I need to enter the word number 12 from the list before? What do you mean? So all those things, if you don't put them into the right context, all of them are just friction points. And the way we can drive mass adoption is to figure out how to eliminate as many friction points as possible, and how to avoid settling the user with all this complexity. There's a great UX principle that states complexity never disappears. It's either on the user side or on the developer side. So if you decide to take that on, you make it easier for the users, and that's what we're trying to do. If you don't, you usually say, okay, you do that, you do the wallet thing, I don't care. So that's where the big and cumbersome processes are. So with XFabric, we're actually taking it one step further and trying to eliminate for two categories of users, this complexity. But it's going to be great. I mean, it's going to be a great product.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm trying to, for example, explain this with Giants, for example, with the game that we are building, because if it's easier for the users, that 99% it means that it was harder for us.
Exactly.
So if something feels easy, then it was probably very hard to implement and to achieve that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So going back a little to Spotlight right now, because we really jumped to XFabric. What's kind of the long-term vision for Spotlight?
So I think that any ecosystem and as vibrant, especially one as vibrant as the Multiverse X ecosystem for NFT projects needs a way. So needs sort of a discovery platform that also functions as sort of like the initial gateway to this new world that they're exploring. And xSpotlight can do that because we can be unbiased on this. We can offer the tools for new users to discover new projects, and we can also act as a curators. Making sure that our users are safe and they know if projects are verified. So we have as you know we have some systems for verification for collections and for projects, and we're working on introducing a few more. But we're also trying to figure out ways of how to highlight the smaller projects, some of the ones that haven't reached to the verified level yet, but are doing amazing work and with the best intentions. So so I think that xSpotlight can be first and foremost a discovery platform for new users, and then secondly, it can be an aspirational platform for existing users and existing projects. If we can figure out ways, and we have many ideas, but one of them is to sort of figure out ways how the community can get more involved with how we select beacons of light and how we feature projects. which we started already with the sample, with the first trial of a Discord community of Spotlight to be involved in the decision there. Yeah, except Twitter, because Twitter, once we posted the poll there, bots took over, and so it wasn't that relevant anymore. But I think that both projects, which both of them won in our Discord, both of them were featured afterwards. Age of Zalmoxis and Cyberpunk City. Both projects definitely deserved it. I mean, great projects, great people. And by the way, even with you guys, what you guys are building, I think that trying to build a game or a metaverse as Cyberpunk is doing, it's amazing. I mean, it's like, for me, just trying to understand the basics. I talked to the founders of Age of Self-Moxis, and when they presented like everything that they've been doing already with Unreal Engine, and it's amazing. I mean, it's like I'm in awe, and I admire, and it every single time I have a call with one of the projects, it just blows my mind how creative and how amazing these people are. And it's just a renewed, every single time it's like a renewed commitment to the project, even if you sometimes feel that okay, like nobody cares about this, but actually they really do. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned kind of the bad market condition we are in right now, but I think this acts as a great filter right now, because you can spot like the real builders and the people that are willing to put in the work, even though maybe profits are not right away, or even they need to overcome different challenges, financial challenges and everything to go through with their idea and vision. With the Dev Hub, it's built by the community, but Spotlight, it's your product. So how do you manage not being biased in some way, or like how do you handle all of this? Because I assume there's also some pressure maybe from the community on that side.
Sure, of course there is. First, you need to. I think that the first lesson that we had to learn is that there's no such thing as being 100% unbiased.
Yeah.
And we're always gonna prefer and look at the projects that we see are building, and that we see are great example to the community. Now, if this is, and it's very hard to figure out the objective ways of quantifying what means being.
Yeah, exactly.
So because of this ambiguity, sometimes it's based on our instinct, or based on what we feel, what we think, or the feeling we get, at certain points in the project. But I think that as a golden rule for selecting these projects is, as you mentioned, is if people understand that the only way they can succeed is by being helpful to others, and if this is the rule that they follow in life, in professional life or personal life, I think that they're not only going to be better people, but also going to be more, as you said, they're going to be admired more, and all the benefits that you would like to have are actually, they shouldn't be the ones that you're going after. The only thing you should do is try to be as helpful as you can. And it's easy to spot the people that do this for that, and it's very easy to see the people that they hope that nobody notices that the only reason why they do this is because they want the profits. And again, I think that profits are very important. I think that figuring out ways to create sustainable projects is the only way the community or the ecosystem will grow. And many of the initial backers of of all these projects want to see all these projects succeed, and that's an important aspect for us as well. And if we can help with this, we'll do our best.
Now, going back to XFabric, I'm excited about that, so we need to talk about that. If or what can you tell about kind of the current status of XFabric and kind of how it evolved, let's say from X days, so from 6 months, right, to right now? Did anything change into the vision, or?
So, because it's very difficult to talk about XFabric without actually talking about XFabric, it's one of those Fight Club moments. I wouldn't want to go into that let me put it this way.
Yeah.
When we launch XFabric, which is imminent, it's gonna happen soon. I promise I come back and we talk an hour only about that.
Okay.
The reason why I say this is not because I'm trying to avoid the question. It's just because I don't want to give you a not complete answer, because you have to see it in action so you understand how far we took it. But I can tell you that the vision was solid back then, but it has evolved to so much more since then.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because, but as I mentioned before, it's still for the same, people. We're still building it for companies and brands, and it's the B2B2C platform. But it's we understand so much more today,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
it's very hard to. Yeah,
let's
it's very
meet
hard.
again in
Yeah, sure,
a few months.
sure. When we launch, we
come
come
to
here. Yeah, sure, of course.
yeah, we'll see. But okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that you took XFabric out of my list,
but it's not. I mean, trust me, it's better that way, because it's difficult to talk about something.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
so now let's switch to another subject. Then Ichi, going back to Ichi, because you did have such an amazing thing with them. Do you have anything kind of planned? I mean, I assume it's kind of a long-term collaboration with them, and probably this is just, I don't know, day one or...
So this is their project 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Our role in this platform was to make sure that they have access to the best version of the technology they can. Yeah. And this is what MultiversX has provided. That's why it's built on the Multiverse X protocol. Mm-hmm. So this is, we are going to keep doing that. We're going to keep helping them with everything we can. But this is their project. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's the whole point of blockchains and Web3 in general, is that ownership is very clear. The lines are very clear. That this is something that they have initiated, they have built, and we've helped them. They've built it on MultiversX, and we just helped them with the technical side of this. We are very happy to be partnering with them on this, by the way. So it's not, I'm not trying to distance ourselves. I'm just trying to make sure that, it's clear that, it's like our role here, as with many other projects, is to be as helpful as we can for them to achieve their vision. Mm-hmm. And I think they've done a good job so far. And as day one or day two or whatever. Yeah, for them, I think it's day zero. It's day zero for them. Yeah, exactly. But I think we're gonna see great things happening from now on. This goes back to Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 book, right? Yeah. Because it's very hard to get to from zero, from nothing, to actually have this. And I think once this, people see this and it's already out there, iteration is going to happen so much faster, so much quicker. And so I think that's an important aspect of it as well. Institutional adoption happens when, and I know I don't know if that's always the case, but what I've seen is that if somebody has done it before, it's much easier for them to do it again, right? So having one of the biggest institutions in Romania when it comes to research and innovation do this, it's going to be so much easier for smaller ones to use it as well, or to get into this direction. So that's I think it's a great step in for adoption. Yeah,
and I'm so excited about this, especially because they have the power to do some things that no private company, no citizen, no one can actually have the power to do so.
Exactly.
As head of core application, going back to your role, what advice do you have for people that want to start building on MultiversX?
Many people, especially the ones that are getting close to the system, to the the whole idea of the blockchain, they're just getting warmed up to it. They might think that 10 years, the market is saturated or something. No. We're so early in the adoption curve that is crazy. And the other thing is that I know I was in that same spot as well. I was first only an investor and just trying, looking at things and, like an end user. And when I started talking to Benny, it just clicked that the real value comes from building things for others and for them to be useful to others.
Yeah, I mean, crypto is just a very small.
Of course,
not really a very small, but it's one application of the blockchain.
Exactly, and once I realized that, everything else just opened up. So first advice would be go and read and listen to Benny, right? So that would be the first my first advice. But the second just as important.
Benny on Twitter, right?
yeah, exactly. Follow Benny on Twitter. But the second advice, just as important, is try to be useful and figure out ways where you think that this can be useful. And I think that there's so many applications that, as you mentioned, crypto is basically one of them. But there's so much room in improving and adding value through blockchain to existing use cases, to existing situations that there is so much more room to grow. We're so early, and I'm not talking only about Multiverse X. I'm talking about the entire industry. So the sooner you realize that this is the way to go, everything else just falls into place.
Yeah, totally. And to add something here, I think Multiverse X is great if you, for builders' perspective, if that's your first interaction with blockchain and writing your first smart contract, building your first app. I think it's way easier, and how the protocol is built, it makes a lot more sense than others. For example, true ownership of your assets and things like that, and also the process of, for example, building your first smart contract and deploying that and interacting with that. Because when you try something new, a big portion of you keep building and things like that has to do with those like small wins that you get at the beginning.
Of course.
If it takes you 3 weeks to deploy your first app, you would probably lose interest in that along the way. As you mentioned before with onboarding and everything, we know from all those studies, if you add one more click to an onboarding, an entire percent of people will drop. So
definitely.
I think Multiverse X is great for starting your blockchain journey. So to wrap things up, because we chatted a lot, we shared a lot of things.
Hopefully, most of it will make it into the final episode. I know how much.
No, I'm sure there was a great conversation. Finally, tell us a little about the vision for the future of Multiverse X.
So, I don't know if I'm the right person to talk about this other than, it's like, so the reason why I'm not saying because I don't see a vision for Multiverse X is because I think that Benny does such a better job at articulating this in a way that resonates with most people. From my perspective, Multiverse X can be a world-changing force. I think we're very early in this journey of ours. I think that the utility and everything that's being built into with every single piece, as you mentioned, that we're releasing and we're building and especially knowing what we have coming down the road. I don't know. It's for me personally, it's a privilege to be part of this team, and I feel so lucky that I had the opportunity to be here. And it's not even about, sometimes it's one of those imposter syndrome moments where I'm hoping that nobody realizes I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. But it does feel like that because these people are so smart and so much smarter in many, in most situations, that I'm just happy to be in the room, and just listen to them and talk about these things. And from what I see in my limited vision of the world, I still see this company and this group of people, this initiative, as being a world-changing force in itself. Now, but again, I usually listen to Benny for the vision,
Yeah.
and I'm doing my best to help with implementing
just
that.
Made a cut here and put Benny
Sure,
on the
sure.
screen.
There you go. I think that's the best way to end this episode.
And then, no. After that, go back to you.
No, I mean it's obviously it's a shared vision. Obviously,
Yeah, totally.
we all everybody that's here is sharing on this and doing their best to build it. But Benny's role in this is to shine a light to the future and tell us this is where we need to go.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for the time.
Of course. Anytime.
We'll meet again in a few months.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and see you guys with the next episode. Bye bye.